Hi there. Later, the star who's raised a ton of money for trans rights. First though, as I'm sure you've heard by now, the death of the Pope was announced earlier, and he had a mixed record when it comes to queer rights. The 88-year-old was often publicly supportive of LGBTQ+ people and of inclusivity in the Catholic Church, but he didn't actually make the changes needed to achieve that, and last year it's claimed he used the homophobic F word to refer to gay men. Let's focus on the positive though.
Being homosexual isn't a crime. It's a human condition. We are all children of God. And God loves us as we are. And for the strength that each one of us has to fight for our dignity. Being homosexual is not a crime. It's not a crime.
Pope Francis speaking to Channel 4 News in 2023. He'd been seriously ill recently with pneumonia in both lungs. A bigoted bedwetting council election candidate's trying to get some attention by calling LGBTQ+ people mentally ill in his campaign leaflet. Actually refers to LBTQ, no G, so maybe he views the gays more favourably. And heck, his name is David Roy Cox. He's standing as an independent in Oxfordshire in the UK. Also mentions Christian teachings, dreadful DEI, and lily-livered woke nonsense. Somehow manages to misspell Lily. Come on, sweetheart, it's not hard. Police are investigating whether it's a hate crime. And Nicola Coughlan's raised more than £100,000 for transgender rights charity Not a Phase. Comes off the back of the UK Supreme Court saying the legal definition of a woman excludes trans women. The Dairy Girls and Bridgerton star set up a fundraiser because she was so appalled.
To see an already marginalised community being further attacked in law is really stomach-churning and disgusting, and to see people celebrate it is more stomach-churning and disgusting.
Possibly a reference to Harry Potter's wicked grandma there, and may we all give thanks we're not similarly dead inside. Over the weekend, thousands of people turned out for protests across the UK against the High Court ruling. No time to tell you that. Lesbian Visibility Week starts today, and South Korea's getting its first lesbian dating show called To Get Her. Hi there. Later, Kristen Stewart's married a girlfriend. First though, a mother of queer children's been forcibly removed from a school board meeting for what I'm sure you'll agree is the most heinous of crimes. Lena Kotler from Georgia in America dared to voice her opposition to the scrapping of diversity policies. All she said was the word cowards, then police lifted her out of her seat and dragged her from the building. She's been speaking to Atlanta News First.
There are marginalized children in our district who rely on these programs, and it is beyond evil that anyone is threatening these programs.
Lena's got 3 kids, one who's transgender, one non-binary, and an autistic child.
You know, our children spend a huge chunk of their lives at school. Their own sense of self and self-worth is developed at school. If we stop policies and programs that make those spaces inclusive and safe for everyone, we know what happens.
Amongst other things, the school boards ditch commitments to inclusive learning environments free from discrimination. Next, plans for an LGBTQ+ museum in York in England, and it's all thanks to knuckle-dragging homophobes. Queer brother and sister Claire and Xander Platts, who we've talked about previously, they own a business called This Shop Is So Gay, which has been vandalised repeatedly by bigots. Their fundraiser to repair the damage has been so successful, they're keeping it going, to pay for a museum and a charity for queer people. And Kristen Stewart's now got a wife. The actors tied the knot with screenwriter Dylan Mayer over the weekend. The pair, who've been together 6 years, had a small ceremony in Los Angeles on Sunday at a Mexican restaurant called Casita del Campo. No word on the showbiz guest list, suffice to say, none of us were there. No time to tell you that. Out gay gymnast Heath Thorpe's won his first gold medal of the year. The Australians finished first in the horizontal bar event at the Luxembourg Open. Hi there. Later, a pro-transgender seagull. First though, in a U-turn that makes him a shoe-in for a dinner invite round at Harry Potter's Wicked Grandma's, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer says trans women aren't women. Comes off the back of last week's Supreme Court ruling that, under the Equality Act, a woman's defined by biological sex. Starmer reckons he welcomes the clarity of that decision. Maggie Chapman, a Green Party lawmaker on Scotland's Equalities Committee, has a different take.
Wednesday's decision is a disgrace. You all deserve an apology for the appalling way that your lives have been politicised, that your right to exist has been put on the line. Trans rights are human rights, women's rights are human rights, and they are not in conflict.
Just 3 years ago, Keir Starmer told a newspaper trans women are women. Won't know for sure till June, but America's Supreme Court's signalling it will allow kids to be removed from class where there's a risk of books making them queer. I'm paraphrasing just a tad. Basically, if they're reading anything with LGBTQ+ characters in elementary schools, children could be opted out. The case has been brought by a group of Christian, Muslim and Jewish parents from Maryland. And no fourth season for Heartstopper, but it's not quite the end for Nick and Charlie. Netflix says their queer coming-of-age love story is going to be wrapped up in a full-length film, which starts shooting in the summer. They confront the prospect of a long-distance relationship as Nick prepares to head off to uni. Please get Olivia Colman locked in now. No time to tell you that. Pedro Pascal's been out and about in his pro-transgender Protect the Dolls t-shirt again. The actor's worn it to a film premiere in London. And a TikTok of a seagull flying around with a trans pride flag in its beak has gone viral. It was filmed during protests in London against that Supreme Court decision. Hi there. Later, a new festival of Flinter. First though, one of Britain's best-known transgender athletes reckons the Supreme Court's painted a target on the backs of trans women. Emily Bridges reacting to last week's ruling that a woman's defined by biological sex. This will impact single-sex spaces and services. The cyclist tells ITV News she feels less safe now.
This is going to be used to further kind of the exclusion of us from society. It increases levels of vulnerability, but I've always felt like, you go out the house thinking, is this the day where someone's going to shout at me, call me a slur, is someone going to attack me?
The case was brought by a gender-critical campaign group thought to have received £70,000 from Harry Potter's Wicked Grandma. Emily says the author, who is, in my view, relentlessly and unforgivably vile about trans people, has a lot of power.
With how much money and how much political influence she has been able to kind of point things in the way that she wants. She's seen as messiah by the people that agree with her, similar to how Trump is seen by the MAGA crowd in America.
Despite the court judgment, Emily plans to continue using the likes of women's public toilets and changing rooms. Meta has been ordered to investigate how changes to moderation rules on its Facebook and Instagram platforms are affecting the human rights of LGBTQ+ people. Since January, it's been absolutely fine to refer to queer individuals as mentally ill and abnormal. The firm's oversight board says changes were implemented hastily, with no indication the potential impact had been evaluated. Oh, and this, as advocacy group GLAD says, Meta's AI tool Llama 4 is recommending conversion therapy. Nice one, Zuck. And pun of the day goes to the new music festival all about queer women, Diconic. Yes, take a bow. This will be happening in Dublin on August the 9th with a lineup that's entirely Flinter, so female, lesbian, intersex, non-binary, trans and agender. Organisers describe it as a queer picnic meets mini pride meets chaos. No time to tell you that. Billie Eilish and Chapel Rowan are among the queer nominees at next month's American Music Awards. And the Gay Polo League's international tournament starts today in Florida. The event raises money for LGBTQ+ organisations. Hi there. Later, why things are tight in Dublin. First though, A trans woman reckons her colon cancer was only discovered thanks to a gender-affirming care. This flagged up a fall in Jennifer Trevska's iron levels back in 2017, which led to a colonoscopy. Jennifer, from Delaware in America, has been speaking to the patient story.
Colonoscopy happens, wake me up. Doctor was like, we don't know what stage this is, but this is 100% colon cancer. It was like a 5-something centimeter tumor. They couldn't get the camera past. And yeah, I was 23.
She had surgery and chemotherapy, and that got rid of the cancer. However, during Jennifer's facial feminization surgery in 2020,
I have a stroke in my left eye, spent some time in the hospital. I get discharged, see my new stroke specialist. They do CT scans. The stroke specialist calls me the same day as a CT scans, and she's like, there's a lung nodule. I'm like, no, there was a lung nodule. You're wrong.
She was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, the worst, in her lungs. There was more surgery and chemo, and she's now been in remission for 3 years. Jennifer says gender-affirming care quite literally saved her life. 2 lawyers have been disciplined in Melbourne, Australia, over an anti-LGBTQ+ joke posted in a barrister's chambers. John F. Perry and Robert G. Squirrel, I know, they were behind a fake official notice containing an offensive term and the claim queer lawyers get preferential treatment. The pair are more than $14,000 out of pocket after admitting professional misconduct and have to undergo professional development. And Ireland's first transgender and non-binary film festival, called Tight, kicks off later in Dublin. Opens with Pony Boy, starring Dylan O'Brien and River Gallo, about a young intersex sex worker. It's described as neo-noir. You know, neo-noir. The festival's all about championing the work of trans and non-binary filmmakers. TITE, by the way, T-I-T-E, stands for Trans Image, Trans Experience. No time to tell you that. A blind transgender woman is running the London Marathon this weekend. Sarah Stevenson-Hunter's raising money for queer rights charity Stonewall. And you've also got the first Queer Women in Sports Day, with athletes taking part across America. I'm Kev McGrath. See you next week.